Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ, a partnership the third Thursday each month with Washington County Public Schools. This is Will Kaufman from the Public Information Office, joined by Laura Francisco, our Director of Human Resources for the school system, and bonus guest, unannounced, just happened to show up with us this afternoon, the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Clayton Wilcox. Sir, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Laura, we'll start with you since you were actually on the marquee for the show. We wanted to talk about what has been over certainly recent times a focus on, based on challenges, based on the right thing to do, based on diversity. Tell us a little bit about the origins of the reasons, the origins, and what we've been doing focusing on diversity.
Okay. When I first started with Washington County Public Schools in 2013, about halfway through that year, we had some parent attendance at one of our board meetings, and the topic was brought up in open session regarding having more teachers of color in our schools to more closely meet our student population, the diversity of our student population. So that was the origin of the Diversity Task Force, which is a community and staff group combination, open meetings. Those meetings have been held for the last 2 years, and membership changes. People go off and people come on. Once a year I do put out an announcement that says we're always looking for new members, but you don't have to wait for that announcement. People can attend as they would like. So that group kind of evolved into a focus on how are we recruiting and how are we retaining minority teachers, diverse teachers, and then really looking at not only the diversity of our workforce, but what are we doing to help our employees better understand the diversity around them and be culturally competent and understand what it means to work in a diverse workplace with a diverse student body and certainly a diverse community. So it's broadened out significantly.
That task force is different from, for instance, our standing committees.
Correct.
I mean, there aren't the same kind of formalities to it, although certainly these are key issues.
It's not a board committee, correct. It is a community and district kind of combination committee or task force. People are welcome to. I just had a member last week say, I'd like to bring a friend to the next meeting. Is that okay? Absolutely. And people do that quite often. We usually have between 18 and 22 or so people attend each meeting. Again, we do have staff members, administrators, teachers, support staff, and then community members. There are retired teachers, there are parents, and there are just interested people in the community that don't have kids in the system but are interested in the topic.
Well, when do you realize real results from this group's work? Because the charge is not okay. We specifically need to handle points 1 through 4, issues 1 through 7, or whatever it is. It doesn't seem like it anyway.
You're right, and I think results. There are a lot of different results that we would like to see. We would definitely like to have all of our employees participate in training and a better understanding of what diversity and inclusion means for them on a daily basis. We would definitely like to increase the diversity of our workforce, and so that is more of a number, but we don't set a metric. We're just looking to improve, and it's evolving constantly. We just hired a recruiter this fall who really is focusing a lot on where are we going to recruit teachers, what results are we getting from those, do we need to drop this college 1 year because we did not have a good return on investment, what are we adding, really, where are we focusing these efforts?
Where do you see some level of success, just in general terms, with the task force? I mean, if you looked at, maybe a quick checklist of, okay, what have we accomplished in the period of time that we've been meeting? What would you term successes?
I think we really have started to generate a better understanding of a few things. One, that we definitely want to have a community conversation. We want to be able to sit in a room and have a conversation about a topic that is not always easy to talk about. We also have generated a better understanding, I think, particularly for our non-employees, for our community members, of how do we hire? What does it take to become a teacher in Washington County Public Schools? And that's everything, including certification requirements that are set by the state that teachers have to meet to be able to be hired. But just understanding that there are certain things that have to happen to get through the door. We've gone through the application process and what certification looks like and how we recruit. We've asked task force members to attend recruitment fairs with us, and they have, so they can see the process and see the candidates and also be advocates for the system for us.
Now, there are some technical and sort of legal restrictions I mean, it's not a perfect world as opposed to what some either community members, task force members, or proponents of major league diversity would like it to be. I mean, there are challenges in the way we have to do what we do as a school system.
That's right. Our automated recruitment system allows us to see a wealth of data, and part of that data is EEO data that we can see as people have self-identified as they apply, gender, racial or ethnic identification. But what we can't see is that data linked to a specific candidate. We see pools. So I could narrow it down and say I'd like to see the racial identity or identification for everyone who applied to be an elementary school teacher. And I can see that, what person has checked, but I can't see that it relates to a specific candidate.
Right.
So we are looking at qualifications, absolutely. We're looking at, what references are provided, what certification is there, what experiences the person may have had as a student teacher or as a teacher in another district. And they're in that pool. Everybody who is qualified is eligible to be interviewed for any position, really.
Is it the case, whether it's here or just universally in the hiring process in education, there isn't a number? We're not shooting for a number. Nobody's talking about a number where we need this number of minority employees. There's not a number that's even in play.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think in our community, we know that our student body is more diverse than our teacher workforce, our support staff workforce, or our administrative workforce, and we'd like to improve those numbers. And again, not again because I haven't said it yet, but we have talked about this in the committee, in the task force. Diversity is a lot of things, and it is not just racial or ethnic diversity. We have gender diversity. We would like to have more elementary school teachers who are male, and that's really a national need. There's religious diversity. There are so many other things beyond race and ethnicity.
From an educational standpoint, Dr. Wilcox, what does it mean to have a diverse workforce? Does it make a difference to have a diverse workforce, for instance, in the classrooms across the district, considering the demographics of the student population and how those demographics have changed?
Well, I think there is some research on that, Will, and I think, quite honestly, just from a perspective of kind of a layperson, I would say that having somebody who looks like you in the classroom is inspiring. It gives you something to shoot for beyond self. So I think it's in our own best self-interest to try to make our workforce more diverse. I think our kids deserve to see people who look like them in positions of leadership and in positions of authority, whether you're the classroom teacher or an administrator. So, we do work to that. I don't know that we're focused enough on it, although I think we've increased our attention to trying to bring people in. And as Ms. Francisco said a minute ago, as Laura said, we're trying to cover a broad range of diversity. It's not just black or white. It's not just having Latinos who are teaching some of our new Mexican-American kids or our South American kids. It's not just male-female, but it's getting the males and females in the right places. Males in the elementary school, but perhaps having more women who are teaching our high-end math classes or some of our high-end science classes. I think those are all things where people ought to see somebody who looks like them so that people can aspire to something greater.
there have to be limitations, I would think, and this is not to set us up to rationalize any of this, but there have to be limitations in the way, I mean, where we recruit, the amount of resources we spend on recruiting and hiring and all of that to develop a pool. It would seem to me that there's that line where you can easily cross over to do way more in trying to attract what turns out to be a smaller. Now, this is a tough community, I think, and so the question is, how far do you go to create diversity? Which is one of the great rhetorical questions, but you're going to have to address it, Laura. I'm sorry about that.
I think that's one of the things we are really looking at right now is where are we drawing candidates from, and what do we need to change to improve that pool. We're really taking a look at historically black colleges and universities, and we're lucky to have quite a few very locally, Maryland and DC in particular. There are also Hispanic serving institutions, which is kind of along the lines of the historically black colleges and universities that we are looking at. And then we're going further to look at not just those that are accredited as one of those types of institutions, but colleges that have just a very diverse student body. That information is readily available. And we are already going to a lot of those fairs and reaching out to those colleges. Just last week, someone who is a teacher for us reached out to Dr. Wilcox. He passed the information along to me where there's a college in Washington, D.C., Trinity College, that had experienced some decline in enrollment and recently kind of took their entire model of attracting students and turned it upside down, and now they are focused on African American and Latina women, and they have a college of education. She's saying, I'm an alumni, I'd love to connect you. So we're working right now on building a partnership and directly building a pipeline, not just going to a job fair, showing up one day and handing out some tchotchkes, but building a partnership where candidates are being funneled to us if we are an attractive place to work.
You know, it's funny because it's not unlike the way we do what we do anyway, regardless of race or gender or anything like that. I mean, if somebody comes to us with a good tip, a good pipeline, a good source that we haven't explored before, it doesn't matter what they're sending. We're looking for good employees, yes. Good teaching candidates, yes. Regardless.
Absolutely. And we've been blessed in this community. We've had a number of people who are leaders in both the African American community, the Latino community, who have come to us and said, you know what, we know how to help you. And so some of them have joined the diversity task force. Others have simply connected us to people. But one of the things that we're running into is a challenge, and that is, just like kids needing to see somebody who looks like them in the classroom, there's a corollary in the adult world. When you bring people in the community, they've got to see people like them, other professionals. And, absent that, why would you come and settle here when you're not like the other people in your neighborhood, perhaps? So I think this is a larger issue. To that end, one of the things that Laura did, and I think is quite wise, is she's reached out to other businesses and industries, and we've kind of created a small council of businesses that are talking about how we can perhaps recruit together so that we can bring in teaching couples or couples that one of the spouses works perhaps in another industry. It just seems to make some sense for us to give people as many compelling reasons to come here as possible.
Well, the community is certainly more diverse, but not dramatically. And so, to your point then, we reflect the community, but the community is not, this is still not the most diverse set of towns and communities here in Washington County.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is, I've spent my entire career, I was a superintendent in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which was a community was challenged with racial issues and racially divided in many ways. I was in St. Pete, which was a largely African-American dominated school section of Pinellas County, which was another larger white. So there's a lot of divide there. So this is not the first time I faced these challenges, but I will tell you that it's, I think, a little more difficult here because there just aren't critical masses of kids, critical masses of parents that we had there to build on. So again, it's a challenging thing, but it's not something we're shying away from.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Laura Francisco, our Director of Human Resources with Washington County Public Schools, and Dr. Clayton Wilcox, our Superintendent of Schools. Emotionally, what's the spirit, of the task force and of the effort? Emotionally, is there anger? Is there a sense of, and I don't mean this to be a loaded question, but I'm just wondering what the prevailing atmosphere is on the day-to-day, on the meeting by meeting.
I think overall the attitude is, let's make some progress. Yeah. And so I think that's a positive thing. The Diversity Task Force, actually the last two meetings, participated in an abbreviated version of the training that our teachers and paraprofessionals and administrators are experiencing right now in schools. And those were really good discussions, because even though I had been meeting with a lot of those people for 2 years, you start having those discussions about when were you first aware of race and what was your first negative or positive experience. You learn a lot about people and where they come from, and I don't mean where they come from geographically, but where they are and where they come from in life, and how that impacts how they interact with other people. And that's really what we're trying to do, so that teachers and paras who work together and work with students together, and administrators as well, can really understand those differences and what people bring to the table, and how it might impact their communication, their ability to learn, any of that. So I think it's a positive attitude in general.
On a related note, but a little different angle to this, talk a little bit about the training for current employees. Just diversity. A sense of diversity, a sense of cultural awareness that maybe is not the strong suit of many folks in the system. I find that a fascinating exercise as we work our way through the workforce.
It is, and we're really making a concerted effort at this point, coming at it from different directions. But right now, the main focus of training at this point is out in schools, going from location to location, working with all of the staff in a building, teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, talking together. We will get to about a third of schools this year. It's an ongoing plan. We're also going to hold some open sessions for people who don't want to wait till next year, can come and attend a session. But it's 4 hours total. It's very interactive. The groups are small so that people can really have conversations and start to learn things about themselves and about the people they work with and the students that they interact with and educate. So that's going on. We also have training that administrators have participated in the fall, and there will be a different view, a different perspective in the spring. But we're also including food and nutrition services, all of those staff at all of the schools, all of our maintenance staff, whether they're based at Central or CES or school-based. So we're really making a pledge to get to all of our employees on a rolling basis. We don't see this as an effort that ends at a certain point. It may change, but it's not over.
What we would all hope is that there's a ripple effect from the food service workers and the teachers and the employees in whatever position they are when they go back out into the community at the end of the workday here, and it makes a difference out in homes and businesses and at the mall and everywhere else. Because if we can make some progress in the school system, it would mean the equivalent, I think, out in the community.
We actually believe that. Part of our effort here is to create a larger sense of awareness within the community. We think that the community has changed over a period of time. We know that because when you look at our student body, it's begun to change. That means that the parents who are bringing them, giving us their charge, are different than they were perhaps 10 years ago. So I think we have more people of color. The other issue that we face is we have more people who are really struggling financially than we've ever had before. And there are some challenging issues there. There are some people who are just, out of work, but then there are also some people who have never known work. And there are a second or third generation of folks who have not been able to find kind of their niche in terms of the economics of our society. And they bring a different set of values, and that's what this cultural competence begins to talk about, is how do you reach out to everyone, whether you're white or black or brown or yellow. There are some other things that unite us. We want to make sure that we're aware of them and can celebrate them.
Which makes diversity a much broader discussion than if you include a sizable group, if you figure diversity also includes economically challenged households, man, that's a way bigger discussion than.
I think that it is, but I also think that, African American families, Latino families, they are not alienated from the challenge of our economy. And in fact, many of our Latino families, many of our African American families are the most affected by the changes in our economy. So they bring to us several sets of challenges, opportunities for us to reach them on different levels.
And I think it's important to pick up on that point. Some of the most powerful feedback that we've gotten from employees that have gone through the training to date was from our Food Nutrition Services group, who were really, in some cases, profoundly moved by this training and gave us comments like, I have felt that I am being looked upon differently in my life because of the job that I have. And this has helped me to understand that I might be doing that to somebody else for a different reason.
Right.
So it was pretty powerful.
Who's leading, who's moderating the training sessions?
We're using, for the trainings that are in the schools, we have engaged a consulting firm from Frederick, 2 women, and they are just very engaging, very easy to talk to, which is clearly the whole point.
Right.
And they are going from school to school and central office as necessary, depending on what training we have scheduled.
And this is till further notice. That's a pretty big workforce.
It is. We have a contract that ends at a certain point, but if all is going well, and so far it is, that contract will be renewed.
Right. Let's take the closing segment of the show, Dr. Wilcox, to talk about the budget. I mean, the budget is always an issue. What's to discuss now as we work our way into and through this budget cycle?
Well, one of the first things that we have to think about are revenues. Where will our funds come from? And right now, we're kind of looking at Annapolis. We're looking locally, and what we're seeing is a fairly flat funding position coming forward. We don't anticipate large numbers. Most people who are listening to the show know that our funding comes based on a per-student basis. We get an allocation, some of which is from Annapolis, some of which is locally generated. That said, we have a number of things that are pressing us. We have employee compensation that we have to look at, and our board has been pretty clear that they want to support our employees. They want to make sure that our employees can continue to live well in this community and are not negatively disadvantaged by being a public school teacher. They want to make sure that we do the right thing by our team. So they're going to have to set aside some money, but that's real money when you start talking about 3,000 employees. The numbers that we generally use are to fund the step increase for our employees. It's about $3.4 million. If we begin to fund about another 1% on top of that, it's anywhere between $800,000 and $900,000, or perhaps more, depending on which groups you bring in and bring out based on federal funding and things like that. That's a real number. We also have challenges called the OPEB money, other post-employment benefits. That is a number that structurally is underfunded, and so we have to increase our contribution to that, maybe as much as $2 or $3 million more a year. We also have from the legislature 4 years ago a responsibility to fund at a different rate our current employees' retirement system. That could cost us $1 million or more this year. Beyond that, there are a number of other initiatives. We want to keep working on our class size, want to hold those numbers down so that our teachers can really teach. We're very focused on that. There are some new programs that we want to do. We want to move forward with technology for our young people, because this is the 21st century, and like it or not, and there are some people who don't, we absolutely have to move forward and put devices in our kids' hands. Our kids have to be able to access the world outside the 4 walls of their classroom. There's just no doubt about that. The jury is in. We have to do it. The question becomes how fast and how many and how soon. We'll debate that. We'll discuss that over the coming months, but we're going to have to move forward there.
Well, what would your plan be? Not plan B, but what would your plan be? Just a pool of money for technology, or folding that into the total picture?
Later this month, we're going to roll out a specific plan talking about who we want to put the devices in whose hands, where we want to go, the applications that we want to provide for our young people. And this has a number of benefits in the system as well. One of the things that we know is we're spending entirely too much time on testing. But we think we can streamline that time because most of our tests now are delivered online. And rather than sending groups of kids down to a computer lab, if all of the kids have it, we can get that done much cleaner and get back to teaching and learning as we should. So there are a number of benefits to this. Giving our kids access to some of the best teachers in the world. We think we have great teachers here, but there are also great teachers other places. And, there's things like Khan Academy that our kids could take advantage of. There are other kinds of portals where kids can go and explore science in ways that they can't do in some of our classrooms. So, that's part of our plan, and we're going to roll it out. Let the community see it. We should be in pretty good shape, though, I think.
How do you engage the public, the parents, the community, the businesses? How does all of that, how does everybody come together, at least from an awareness standpoint, at this stage of the budget season?
Well, several ways. Well, one, we're going to host a community forum sometime in December. We haven't announced the date yet. Well, we'll ask people to come together and talk to us about our spending plan, talk to us about what they would like to see. We'll do that face-to-face. The other thing is we're building an online tool right now, which we hope to launch in the next couple of days, maybe the next week, where people can actually see what our budget is. They can pick and choose, move items around, and help us to set budget priorities. If they think that the teacher compensation increases are the most important thing, they can move that in. If they think that getting a structurally sound handle on our other post-employment benefits is the most important thing, they can say that. If they think caring for our retirement or holding our health care costs down, they can say that. So we're going to give people an opportunity to interact with us as I prepare my budget that I will present to the board, and then there are even more open sessions where community members can come in and talk to our board about the budget that I've presented, but also at that time what their priorities are as a board.
All right, let me challenge. Historically, the community doesn't turn out for this. They're satisfied with what you and or the elected board put on the table unless there's something specifically controversial or there's a narrowly focused issue that a particular group stands behind, and otherwise, do you actually expect the general community to show? Is I guess what I'm asking.
I think you're going to get interested people that will come. I think that all of us think that the tax burden in Maryland is too high. I think all of us want our government to be more efficient and economical. I think people want to feel good about what they pay for. And I think, quite honestly, a lot of the time that people don't come to our meetings is because, quite honestly, they're pretty pleased with the education that we're giving, that we're providing. I think they think that we're fiscally responsible. I think that they believe that their children are getting a good education. That's not to say that we don't slip up from time to time, but it is to say generally, I think that's why the numbers don't turn out. I think people trust the elected officials that they've put in place to monitor this, and I'd like to think that people believe that our school system, given our independent audits and the kind of the comments have been made about how we spend our money in the larger community in the paper, I think that people are pleased with us.
Before we wrap up, and I know you do this by routine anyway, but I'm going to set you up to at least offer it again. If folks have a question, they can come to you, send you an email, call, whether it's about something specific or just about the process.
Absolutely. My email is published. People can get to me on the website. They can get to our public information officer and get to me. I'll call them back. I am here at the pleasure of this community. I am the only employee of the Board of Education. So I'm going to answer. And, people may not like the answer that they get. They may not agree with the answer they get, but they're going to get straight talk, and they're going to get a chance to talk directly with me.
All right, Laura, final word from your corner on the subject of the task force and the diversity issues, challenges, successes that we've had. How can folks continue to follow or be a part of it?
They can contact me. My email is also on the website. They can call the Human Resources Office. We'll make sure they have the information, get on our distribution list, attend a meeting, just have a conversation, whatever works.
Excellent. Laura Francisco is our Director of Human Resources, and Dr. Clayton Wilcox, Superintendent of Washington County Public Schools. Thank you very much for coming today. Lunchtime Live is heard the third Thursday of the month at this time, a partnership between Washington County Public Schools and WJEJ.